Sergeant Baring. Lived here my whole life, and I ain't never seen something like this before. This kind of stuff doesn't usually happen to a small town like us. It was October 31st, and being this far out, we don't get much trick-or-treaters, or Halloween stuff. Folks usually take their kids trick-or-treating at the church. They have a big Halloween event in the church parking lot, hand out candy, give a prize to the kid with the best costume, or you could drive a good 40 or so to Centerburg. Take them to the good neighborhood, the one where they hand out full-size candy bars. Well, on that night, we were busy with calls. Kids TPing trees, forking some yards, a few smashed-in mailboxes. It was the usual for a Halloween night, maybe a little more, being a full moon and all. You know, it really is true. I've been on the force for going on 20 years now, and I'm telling you, people are more nuts on a full moon night. I don't know what it is, but it gets them all riled up, and they just get extra wacky. Well, we'd been on patrol all night, Sergeant Womack and I, for the holiday and all, busting up any booze crews and the general riffraff for the night. Things were winding down for the past few hours, when we got a call a little after 4 in the morning. Dispatch had said that someone had called in saying they'd heard screaming out at Mitchell Road. So we headed over there. We didn't know what we were coming up against, but figured it was teens driving around, scaring each other in the cornfield and whatnot. As we rounded the bend, headed east, it's a wooded area, but once you come around, it opens up to a cornfield, and when it did, we got a view of a large barn on fire at the Yoder property, further up the road. The fire was massive. We called it into the station as we raced over there, sending out the fire department, requesting backup, getting the emergency services out there and whatnot, as well as try to get a hold of their deacon. It was like jumping through hoops trying to get someone from their community out there to help. Those types didn't interact with the local people, especially the police. Pulling up the gravel drive, we saw some of the horses and cattle darting out of the barn in flames, racing the way of the river, some succumbing to their deaths in the field. We parked to the side, behind one of their buggies, those black carriages they drive on the road, and quickly got out. The smell of charred fur and flesh was overwhelming. We tried to take in the scene through the billowing smoke. It was burning my eyes, and the heat was like standing next to a big bonfire. Over by their plain white house, they were fortunate enough the wind was blowing east. There were 2 teens nearby, hysterical on the porch. The girl, we came to find out, was Sarah Yoder. She lived at the residence, and was pleading in their Pennsylvania Dutch language, grasping the doorknob, trying to be let in. And the boy there was Isaac Esch, the bishop's son from up the road. They both had serious burns to their bodies. You could just feel that something was off. It felt sinister. The family home on the property, they had locked the doors and refused to let them in. The Yoder family inside just stood at the windows in the dark, watching the fire with blank stares. It was downright disturbing, that image. It seared into my memory, locking their own daughter out like that. Being a small town, my position took on many roles, and that included gathering any evidence for the investigation. Pulling into what would later be the scene of the crime, we thought it was going to be a case of vandalism that got out of control. Or maybe a hate crime. We never thought that it would lead to homicide. After more pieces of evidence came forth, I found out that Mr. Yoder, the property owner, had placed the call into dispatch from their emergency phone. To these people, short of death, they didn't use phones, let alone call the police. As it was all happening, we tried to get information out of the 2 teens as the emergency services pulled in. We asked them what happened and if there was anyone else in the barn. They were both clearly in a shocked state, bordering delirious. I remember Sarah Yoder just stared off and said that she wasn't sure. And Isaac Esch said there were 3 others and that they had run off. We needed to search the buildings on the property. Upon entering the home, Mrs. Yoder had corralled the rest of the children, while Mr. Yoder watched us search the house and the root cellar with our flashlights. "Don't know what you're looking for," Mr. Yoder had said. "The evil's out there." As we searched, Mr. Elam Esch, Isaac's father, arrived shortly afterwards in his horse and buggy. These people were known for being non-confrontational, but I saw the way Isaac cowered after hearing his father's livid yell. Mr. Esch went on and grabbed his son's collar, trying to pull him away. The man sternly commanded his son to tell him where Rebecca was. We were trying to get a handle on the escalating situation, still trying to fill in the gaps, and separate those two as we figured out our investigation. "You can keep him," Mr. Esch told us in a disgusted tone. "He's not welcome back, disgracing our family with devil worship." The firefighters struggled to extinguish the roaring fire. It was a bizarre situation with us walking the nearby fields, searching for the teens who had run off. We weren't sure what we were going to find. Before they rushed Sarah to the closest hospital, she was in a haunting, almost catatonic state, whispering about demons. And Isaac, he no longer wanted to talk. We combed the tree line when we heard Mr. Esch wailing further ahead, at the hill overlooking the river's edge. We quickly jogged up the rocky hill, approaching the sheer rock drop-off. We could hear Mr. Esch frantically descending the muddy terrain that looped around. It was a terrible sight. Dead cattle and horses laid in mangled, singed heaps at the bottom, along the river's edge. Rebecca was found, having drowned in the shallow water. I'd never had a case like that before. Not that we had that many, let alone something as serious as this. But after what all was uncovered, it made me question my beliefs. With everything that played out, I just don't think the town could handle what actually happened that night. I don't think they meant to cause any harm. I don't think they actually believed the ritual would work. But I know what they summoned that night.